Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the SeqCoTimes coverage of the 2018 political forum, where we will hear from candidates for mayor, also for commissioner for Ward 2, and 4. Before we get started tonight, we were able to sit down with each of the three mayoral candidates, Mr. Jim Hudgens, Mr. Ernie Martins, and Mr. Robert Jameson. So before we get started tonight, we wanted to go ahead and give you guys a chance to hear directly from the mayoral candidates. We're going to start off here with Jim Hudgens. So here we go.
Hello everyone, I'm Darren Crawford with the SeqCoTimes, and on February 13th, 2018, Sallisaw will elect its next mayor. With me today is mayoral candidate Jim Hudgens. So Jim, if I am a voter and I'm casting my vote for Jim Hudgens, tell me, who am I casting my vote for?
Well, my name is Jim Hudgens. I've been in Sallisaw now for 35 plus years. I'm a native Oklahoman. I served in the military as assigned to a civil engineering squadron, was a heavy equipment operator. And back in the 60s, I was a sergeant on the Corpus Christi, Texas Police Department. I hold an undergraduate degree in criminology and corrections, and my graduate work was in public administration. I have been a city manager and assistant city manager in Huntsville, Texas, city manager in LaPorte, Texas. I was a city manager here in Sallisaw from up to 1981 till 1987, when I left and took the job as city manager of Shawnee, Oklahoma. And then in 91, I came back to Sallisaw and stayed as city manager till 2004, when I retired. Over the past 15 years, or I shouldn't say, probably 12 years since my retirement, and then me being elected to the commission as a commissioner, I was concerned about the direction that our city was headed in. We have allocated our resources in such a manner that we continue to defer maintenance on our street system, our electric system, our water system, our sanitary sewer system, and we are not keeping up. And the city has no money. I mean, we are a government that we get money from two major sources. First, we get it from sales tax, and the city has a 4% sales tax rate that the city gets. Plus, our second major source of revenue is utility revenue. Mm-hmm. The problem that we have is that the way we have allocated our resources, of the 4 cents that the city gets on sales tax, half cent goes to the hospital. It's dedicated to the hospital. Mm-hmm. We have 1 cent that goes to the general fund, and then we have 2.5 cents that's dedicated totally to paying debt service on our outstanding bonds. Mm. The problem that we have is that our debt service exceeds the total amount of sales tax revenue that we get. We have to take, in addition to the 2.5 cents sales tax revenue, we have to take $1,200,000 a year out of our utility revenue just to make our debt service payments. So when you take that amount of money, the amount of money that's left in the utility revenue to pay salaries and benefits and provide maintenance, we have allocated our resources to the point that we continue to defer maintenance on the facilities that we need to be maintaining. And the longer we defer that, the deeper in the hole we get as far as repairs. We are currently doing a landfill expansion in-house, and we have been able to scrape together enough money over 2 years to fund that, so we have it taken care of. But we also need to make improvements to our north substation, which is about, I think the latest estimate is somewhere between around $700,000 to $800,000. Plus, we need to make improvements to our wastewater treatment plant on our flow equalization basin, which is going to cost in addition to $1.2 million, and that's money that right now we don't have. We're in the process of doing the Highway 59 North relocation
Yep.
project.
Okay.
We borrowed $800,000 from the state at 0% interest, which is a good deal for us as far as that goes, to pay for the electric and the telecommunications relocations on that project. But that's going to add another $80,000 a year to our debt service payments over the next 10 years to
Right.
pay that back.
Right.
So what I would want the citizens of the community to know is that it's a very difficult balancing program. We have in Sallisaw the median family income, which means that 50% of the households in Sallisaw have income less than $28,000 a year.
Right.
So you can't continue to raise rates to the point that the folks that's generating the money, like I say, Sallisaw has no money. We get our money from two major sources. One is sales tax revenue, the other is utility revenue.
Right.
We've allocated all of our sales tax revenue. We're taking $1.2 million out of our utility revenue just to pay debt service.
Right.
We have folks that's making 50% of the households less than $28,000, and what's the major expense for those folks? Is their housing cost, their groceries, and their utilities. We're hitting them 4% on their groceries, and then like with cold snaps like we're having right now, when people get a $300 or $400 a month utility bill, and you've got $28,000 income, it makes it difficult. So we can't continue just to raise rates without being cognizant of our citizens' ability to pay those.
Right. Right.
And so that's where we're at. There's a lot of things, projects, we would all like a new swimming pool. We all want splash pads. We all want ballparks, and I want those things. The problem we have is the city commission has to balance our ability to fund those things, just like people do around the kitchen table with their family. When their income, when their expenses start exceeding their income, they have to start tightening their budgets. Our city staff has worked hard to try to do more with less, and we still push that, to do more with less, try to conserve, and get us to the point where, and it didn't happen overnight, and we're not going to cure it overnight.
Right.
But we need to be cognizant of that and work diligently and make sure that we're trying to use all of our resources as best we can. We're trying to grow our telecom and electric, but our population in town has actually shrunk. We're not, our population has gone down from its peak. We're not losing a lot, but we are losing some. And so the only areas that we have for growth in utility revenue is to, bring in new revenue to the landfill, which, we're working on that, and we still continue to do more with that. The other side is on our telecommunications, but if we're not getting growth in town, our only option for growth on our telecommunications is providing internet services, wireless internet, outside the corporate limits. And we've been able to add customers there to help generate additional revenue there to try to make our base grow.
Sure.
So what I would tell folks is that I'm kind of a nuts and bolts guy. I'm a known quantity. I've been here, like I say, for 35 years. I was city manager here for 20 something years. I'm well aware. I'm knowledgeable about the city system, and I always used to tell new elected officials when they would get elected. When I was city manager, I said, as an elected official, you need to do three things. Number one is you need to be honest, and that doesn't mean just don't steal, but that means be honest, have your heart in the right place, and want to do what's best for the community and the organization, and to be straight with the citizens of the community.
Yeah.
Number two is keep an open mind about the things that come before you. because there's a lot of things, many of them are complex, and you need to study those and keep an open mind about them. And number three is you don't grind any axes, that you don't try to use your position to help your buddy or back. I can remember someone told me a story about an old DA that we had here in SeqCoTimes County one time. They asked him what he was going to do when he got elected. He said he was going to help his friends and punish his enemies. and that's the wrong approach.
Right.
So that's kind of who I am. I mean, this is my hometown. I live here. My kids live here. My grandkids go to school here. We're very proud to be citizens of Sallisaw. We're proud of the community, and we're proud of the organization, but we have a rough patch as far as our revenue goes.
Right.
We're able to keep things going, and we want to provide the best possible services that we can at the lowest possible cost. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, so, and you may have already covered this, so this is just another way of asking the question. So as far as your campaign, what would you say your platform would be? What are the things that Jim Hudgens stands for?
It's pretty much the things I just talked about. You know, I'm going to be honest.
Okay.
I'm always going to try to do what's best for the community. I'm not going to grind any axes.
Okay.
And I'm going to work to try to structure our revenues so we can provide the best possible services that we can at the lowest possible cost. And I've done that for the last 3 years as a commissioner, and the last 8 or 9 months as mayor to accomplish that. We have a long way to go. I look forward to keeping that effort going, and I'm very proud of our organization and our employees in helping get that done.
What would you like to see as far as accomplishments? What's some accomplishments that you kind of hope to?
Well, you know, I want to continue to work on economic development. Mm-hmm. We do that on a regular basis. We have talking with Abidjan now about another expansion for them. They have already put in their feed mill, but we're looking at another expansion for Abidjan. And we work closely with the Chamber of Commerce and SIC to you know, take advantage of every opportunity we can for economic development.
Right.
There are not that many new businesses that you can attract to come to town. Not everybody's going to get a new manufacturing plant or something like that. And you know, me personally, I think we need to focus more on seeing what we can do to do things to help our local businesses that we already have, help them be profitable and help them expand. The biggest part of all new jobs come from small businesses. They don't come from a big tech company moving into your town or things like that. So, and that's part of the thing in helping local businesses be successful is making it affordable for them to do business here.
Right.
And so keeping utilities low, providing good services to them is important.
Okay. Awesome. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to let everybody know about, or any other last message that you have?
No, other than all of us that serve on the city council now and in the past, this is a job that doesn't pay anything.
Right.
You know, there's no monetary. Everybody that serves does so, I hope, for the right reason.
Right.
That they want to provide this community with leadership and service, and to do a good job to make this a better place. That is my objective. That's the only reason I'm doing it. There's no ulterior motives there.
Right.
It's strictly that this is my hometown and I want to see it do well.
Right. Okay. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming in today, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Glad to do it.
All right. There you have it, folks.
All right, that was Jim Hudgens, and next up we have Mr. Ernie Martins.
Hello, everyone. I'm Darren Crawford with the SeqCoTimes, and on February 13th, 2018, Sallisaw will elect its next mayor. So we're here now with Ernie Martins. If I'm casting my vote for Ernie Martins, tell us a little bit about who we're casting our vote for.
Well, I think most people in town know me. I've been here 15 years now. I've been at the high school, been a high school principal, of course, for 15 years. We've been very, very involved in this community. I think I've had a lot of kids go through the school who know me. I've had a lot of families that have known me over the years and have worked with me. And I think most people know that whether they agree with everything I've ever always done or not, they always know that I've been firm, fair, and consistent.
Yeah, sure.
And they always know that I'm going to try to treat them right and treat everybody with dignity and respect.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, we try to do that every day. And sometimes we fail at it, but we try to do that every day. And so I guess what I'd like to tell the public is if they vote for me, they're voting for someone who's going to be very even-tempered, very commonsensical kind of guy. My moral compass is going to drive everything I do, and I'm always going to do what I think is right. I'm not going to be bullheaded to the point where I don't want to listen to anybody else. I'm going to be always be willing to listen to other folks' viewpoints, but at the same time, I know when to dig in and say this is the way I think we needed to do it. So that's basically me in a nutshell. Anybody that's ever had anything to do with me knows me and knows that I try to stand for things with integrity and honesty and treat everybody right.
So on that note, I mean, your platform would be, I mean, what if I was to say, give me 3 words that describes Ernie Martins, and I mean, it would be what?
Well, I've always tried to be a servant to this community.
Okay.
I think over the time I've spent here, most people, that's more than 3 words, but most people know that I've been very, very involved in a lot of things. So a servant to the community, humble leadership, just no ego about this thing. I want to come into this thing and serve and be a servant to this community.
Sure.
I'm going to retire as high school principal, and I want to serve in another capacity.
So tell me this: you're elected mayor. What's some things that you'd hope to accomplish?
Well, Facebook it's amazed me how Facebook has just exploded with the Facebook posts that I've made and all the feedback I'm getting from people. And I didn't realize I would be getting this amount of feedback and suggestions and comments that I'm getting. And I think there's a lot of folks in town who have a lot of the same goals that I have. I think we need to restore harmony with our city employees, with our city council. I think it's going to be very, very important that we take care of some economic issues here in this town with jobs, try to bring in new industry to this town. I think that we need to, one of the hot topics right now is what we're going to do about things for kids to do. There's been a discussion about the new splash pad, working on the swimming pool, and I'm all about those quality of life issues, all those quality of life things that we can add to our community to give our students something else to do.
Sure.
Give them something to keep them out of trouble in the summertime, so to speak, but something to do that's fun to do here in town. Our sports complex has been a great addition to this community, and we've got a lot of little league activities going on out there. And there's future expansion needs to happen out there. We need to expand out there for football and soccer whenever we can. So, there are a few things that I don't necessarily have an agenda for, but there are some things that I'd like to see done in the next few years, and I'm getting the same kind of comments and feedback from people. And I think that a lot of the folks are mirroring a lot of the same goals and ambitions that I have to increase some of the quality of life issues we have here in town. Good paying jobs, places to shop in town where we don't have to go to Fort Smith all the time, things for our kids to do. Those are things that I think are important to a lot of people. And like I said, it goes back to that quality of life issue. We have a lot of folks in town who share those goals, I think.
Absolutely. Well, if there's one last message, one last thing that you'd like for the public, the voters to know, what would it be?
Oh gosh, I'll be dependable, and I'll be dependable. I'll be honest. I'll try to treat people right, and that I'm just in here to serve. Like I say, I don't have an axe to grind. I don't have a hidden agenda towards anybody or anything. I see some things that I think that we need to improve upon for the future. But I just think that integrity is one thing I'm going to try to bring to the city council. There's a lot of it now, but I think we need to continue that. I think it's important that we're very, very wise with choosing our next city manager. I think that's going to be a
Yep.
huge the decision that's going to need to be made in the near
Right.
future. And so I just think that this city council has got a lot of responsibility coming ahead as far as choosing city manager and the things that need to be added to this community to, again, improve those quality of life issues I was talking about. So
Okay.
I just want to be honest and dependable and be a servant to the community.
Okay. All right. Well, we certainly appreciate you coming in today and giving us a little bit of your time. And
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity for this interview. Thank you.
all right. Thanks,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
All right, folks. On our um, last candidate on our broadcast before our forum tonight, which we are moments away from, is Mr. Robert Jameson.
Hello, everyone. I'm Darren Crawford with the SeqCoTimes. And on February 13th, 2018, Sallisaw will elect its next mayor. With me today is mayoral candidate Robert Jameson. Robert, if I am a voter and I am casting my vote for Robert Jameson, tell us a little bit about who we're voting for.
Well, except for 27 years of my life when I was in Tulsa, I'm a lifelong Sallisaw resident. Went to school here,
Okay.
1st through 12. I was still here when I went to junior college. I've seen Sallisaw at its best, what I consider its best, and I think I would like to see it go back to that. I know you can't go back in time, but you can certainly you can revert it to where people have pride in this town.
Sure.
And that's my key thing. This town is to me, since I've been back, it doesn't have pride, and it needs to have pride.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about what you stand for. What is it? Give me a few words that maybe describe Robert Jameson as a person.
As a person, I am who I am.
Okay.
I don't make no pretenses. I don't make any excuses. I'm just who I am. This town melded me into who I am.
Okay.
Because I was raised here. I played here. We were the era that I grew up, which I would, like most people, I'd swear up and down my era was the best. We were all over town. We all knew each other. Everybody knew each other, and we all communicated, and it was great fun. And that's when I've been in other towns, I revert back to who I was here. I've tried cases in lots of different counties, and I look at jurors and I give them who I am.
Okay. So as mayor, if you're elected mayor of Sallisaw, what are some things that you would hope to accomplish? What some things that you would hope to maybe change as far as what you see now?
Well, there's the part of doing what I did for 20-something years over in Tulsa. I got the opportunity to go to different towns, different counties. I always looked to see what they were doing right and what they were doing wrong.
Okay.
I would see these small, quaint communities that are smaller than Sallisaw doing quite well. And I'm sitting here wondering, why isn't Sallisaw doing that? Why can't they do that? And it all comes back to one thing, and it's community pride. I watched a documentary on Oklahoma City, and it was deal before the bombing, during and after.
Sure. Yeah.
And they talked about Boeing coming into Oklahoma City. They offered them everything that they wanted, and they still went to Indianapolis. So the mayor goes to Indianapolis to find out why. And he sees it's quality of life.
Right. Okay.
They have pride in their community. He said when he went back to Oklahoma City, you could have shot a shotgun or a machine gun down the street and not hit anybody. So they started the brick town.
Okay.
And it's gone from there. It's all about community spirit. If you're proud of your town, people who come into this town are going to be proud of the town.
That's right. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Well, as far as voters of Sequoia County, or actually, I guess it'd be Salisaw, is there any personal message or anything that you really want the voters to know, the public to know about you and why you're running?
I care. I'm running to get the message out that you have to love your town.
Okay.
If you don't love your town, nobody else is going to care about it either.
Okay.
And I do love this town.
Great. Well, I appreciate you coming and
Appreciate you having me.
giving us some time.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Mine wasn't known yet, so I bet yours is.
All right. And we are live here at the forum. We're about 2 minutes away from our start time. At the podium is Jeff Mayo. He's going to be kicking us off here momentarily, so hang with us.
Shorter folks will be able to speak a little easier than we just right. Good evening and welcome to the Salisaw Political Forum. My name is Jeff Mayo and I'm the publisher of the Sequoia County Times. This forum is being brought to you by KXMX The Mix and the Sequoia County Times. It's being streamed live and televised, so please silence your cell phones, members of the audience. We want to thank People Inc. for allowing us to hold this event in such a great and useful facility. We want to thank the audience for being here and participating in our city government. As a reminder, none of these elected positions are paid. This is volunteer work to better our community, and the elections for all three positions will be held February 13th. For the city of Salisaw, for the mayor's unexpired two-year term, we have Jim Hudgens, Ernie Martins, and Robert Jameson running for office. For candidates for Ward 2 Commissioner are Roe Poindexter and Philip Gay. And candidates for Ward 4 Commissioner are Shannon Vann and Jonathan Richardson. Robert Morris had filed for office but removed himself from contention before the cutoff for ballots to be printed. Our moderator tonight is Marley Abel. By day, Mr. Abel is a financial advisor for LPL Financial in the First Star Bank here in Salisaw. He has served our community as Salisaw Chamber President in 2009, 2013, and will be in 2019. He's a past president of the Salisaw Education Foundation. He's past president of the Salisaw Lions Club and a current board member. He's currently chairman of the Salisaw Planning and Zoning Commission. He's currently chairman of the Salisaw Lions Club Rodeo. He's currently a Carl Albert State College Development Foundation board member, and he's currently an ICTC Foundation board member. Keeping time and warning candidates when it's time to stop is James Limbaugh. Mr. Limbaugh is a senior at the Salisaw High School. He's been selected to serve on the State Superintendent Joy Hoffmeister's Student Advisory Council this spring. He also attended Boys State in Stillwater this past summer and is the second Salisaw student to ever be selected to attend Boys Nation in Washington, D.C. James, if you'll hold up the signs, we have a 30-second sign and a stop sign, and those are to let the candidates know where they are on their time. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to give an introduction, and then Mr. Abel will ask each candidate the first question. We will be asking the same question for all 7 candidates. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the question. We'll break twice during the event for 3 minutes. And at the end, we'll have a 2-minute closing statement by each candidate. Thank you. Marley? Thank you. And welcome everyone here, and thank you for giving your time and effort to volunteer with the City of Salisaw and try to make us a better place. We're going to go ahead and start out with Ward 2, and that will be Ms. Roe Poindexter, and she will begin her opening statement.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for attending this forum and helping to get educated as to who all of us are and what we are going to try and do for our citizens. In 2007, my late husband and I chose Salisaw to be our retirement community because we wanted to retire to a smaller city. I noticed from our initial visit the pride Sallisaw citizens took in their home, from the manicured cemetery to the well-kept businesses and homes. I have been very actively involved in community service for 46 years. When I moved to Sallisaw, I continued to find ways to become part of the community through my service. In the 10 years while living here, I have been involved with organizing the Catholic Charities Angel Tree 2-day Christmas gift distribution. I have volunteered in several departments at the hospital. I volunteer at the Sallisaw Animal Care Facility, and I'm a very active member of the Chamber of Commerce, helping with Diamond Days Hospitality, Aviva, the annual awards banquet, and the Junior Livestock Show. My love for animals and how they are treated led me in 2010 to fill a void in Stillwater. I established a nonprofit 501c3 organization which helps the Sallisaw Animal Care Facility with animal care. I firmly believe when you live in a city, you should make a positive impact by contributing your time and talents where help is needed. In 2011, I was presented with an opportunity to help our city by serving as the Ward 2 City Commissioner. I was willing to give of my time and talents to make Sallisaw better for all its citizens and again to fill a void. I served as Ward 2 City Commissioner from 2012 until 2015. During my term, the sports complex was approved to begin construction. The Highway 59 project was in the beginning stages, and construction of Cell 8 at the landfill was on the horizon. But one of the most important things that the council performs is adopting a budget each year. The staff and council work diligently to provide the employees what they need to do their jobs effectively in the most economical way. I am currently serving the appointed term as Commissioner for Ward 2. Sallisaw is my home, and I would like to continue representing the citizens in my ward. My reasons for serving in this capacity remain the same today as they were in 2012. I want to give the community where I chose to retire by making positive, sound decisions that affect the citizens and employees of Sallisaw. In short, I want to make Sallisaw a better place.
Thank you, Ms. Poindexter. We'll now move on to the other candidate for Ward 4, Mr. Philip Gay. Ward 2, excuse me.
Well, this is all new to me, and I'm just going to start out by telling you my name's Philip Gay. My family's lived in Sallisaw for over 100 years. My grandpa was second sheriff of SeqCoTimes County. He also helped to start the rodeo down here. I'm a 73 graduate of Sallisaw High School. Me and my wife, we live on the last of the family farm, and I'm retired from Whirlpool. I worked 37 years for Whirlpool, where I was a scheduler and a line coordinator. I worked with engineers, and I had a lot of experience with working with people, and I think I can work with people to get things done. And I'd appreciate a chance to serve the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gay. We'll move on to the candidates for Ward 4, and we'll start with Mr. Shannon Van.
Good time there. Jeff made a good comment there. He reminded everybody that the council members are not paid, so I promise you, no matter who you vote for up here, you'll get your money's worth. So we can assure you of that. So I'll start with just introducing myself. I'm Shannon Van. I've lived here the majority of my life. I've been married to my wife, Cheryl, for 29 and a half years now, I believe. That's right, isn't it, babe? Yeah. She gives me a head nod. So, and we're proud parents of 3 grown children. One son, Nathan, who lives in Brooklyn, New York. and 2 daughters, Riley, who is a resident of Boise, Idaho, and Marissa, who is a new resident of Washington, D.C. So I'm proud of all 3 of those kids, and I'm proud to say that they're college graduates. They broke me in that process, but that's fine. And they're all pursuing their careers, so I'm very proud of them. I'm a graduate of Sallisaw High School, 1986, and went on to the University of Arkansas and earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration, where I majored in finance and graduated in 1990 from there. So after that, moved to back here for a short time, and then moved back to, and then moved on to Lawton, Oklahoma, where I took a position with State Farm as a claim representative, and worked there for 5 years before moving back to Sallisaw in 1997, where I became the owner and operator of the Van Insurance Agency here in Sallisaw. Member of the Chamber of Commerce, served on the board. I've served as president, various roles in that, continue to do that, and I'll continue to always serve in the chamber. I'm a current member of the Sallisaw Improvement Corporation Board, which is the landowner, so to speak, in the industrial park. And of course, I'm also active in the Lions Club. So I do have previous experience on the board. I served as mayor from 2002 to 2014. During my tenure as mayor, I helped lead the drive for some major community improvements, including a new water treatment plant at a cost of about $17 million. Built a new water transmission line from Brushy Lake to the water treatment plant as part of a 3-pronged approach to the water supply issue in Sallisaw. So we solved 2 of those issues. The water supply, new additional water supply being the 3rd leg that is yet to be completed. And then also was involved in the creation and development and construction of the fiber to the home system, which is known as DiamondNet. We purchased the land, started construction of the sports complex. We also purchased 1,000 acres surrounding the landfill, allowing for future expansion. So if I'm elected, I plan to work closely with the other council members, city staff to make improvements to the infrastructure as well as services. The city has many challenges, but just as many opportunities. I look forward to working on these issues, as Sallisaw is my home. I have investments here, both in my business and in my home. I plan to be here for the rest of my life. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mann. We'll now move on to the second candidate for Ward 4, Mr. Jonathan Richardson.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to come out tonight. Also, I'd like to thank our host, People Inc., for hosting this event, and our sponsors, the Mix, KXMX, and the SeqCoTimes, and then our moderator, Mr. Abel. Thank you. Tonight, I'd like to start my opening statement by telling you a little bit about myself. My story is a story of hope. I've always been a glasses half full kind of person because I believe God has so much more that He has for us. I was born in a small farming community in Central California, the youngest of 3 sons to David and Jeannie Richardson. My father's family were from Round Ada, Oklahoma, so I do have some Oklahoma history, and I'm proud to be back in the state. Thanks, Mom, for coming out and supporting me tonight. I wouldn't say that we were poor, but I would say that we had very humble beginnings. My family probably moved around more than most families do. I lived in 4 states before I joined the military, and after I joined the military, I served in 7 states, including overseas in Germany, with deployments in Iraq and Kosovo. All these places that I have lived have provided me with unique opportunities to see other cultures and environments. When I lived in Texas, I met and married my wife, Jamie, and we've been blessed with 4 children. Thanks, honey, for coming. Back in 2010, when I knew that my time in the military was coming to an end, my wife and I sought the Lord, and we felt like He was inviting us to come back to Sallisaw. So I called up my parents and I said, in 2015, we're moving, and we'd like you to join us. And thankfully they did, and they live here in town with us. We came to Sallisaw with the full intent to raise our children with our family and invest ourselves in the community. My purpose in seeking to represent Ward 4 on the City Council is to be an instrument of positive change by working with other leaders to continue to improve the quality of life for our citizens, increase job opportunities, make improvements to local city infrastructure, and work to achieve a balanced budget. All this will take strong leadership, which I can provide. In preparation for this task, I've reviewed the city charter, the collective bargaining agreement with the police department, the current city budget. It's hard work, and the city of Sallisaw deserves someone that's committed to serve. It'd be an honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. We'll now move on to the candidates for mayor, and we'll begin with Mr. Jim Hudgens.
Good evening, everyone. Again, thank you for coming out tonight. Kind of a windy day. I've been in Sallisaw since the early 80s, been here more than 35 years. And over 20 years of that time I spent as Sallisaw's city manager. I left Sallisaw in 1987 to become city manager in Shawnee, Oklahoma. I was there 3 years and was moved back to Sallisaw in 91, where I stayed until my retirement in 2004. Most of the people in the community that have been here very long know me and know all about me. My wife, Joanne, and I together have 7 children. Our children all live in this area. They have attended Sallisaw schools. Our grandkids go to Sallisaw schools. We have made Sallisaw our home. And like Shannon said, we'll be here for the duration regardless of how this election turns out. But I want to continue to help our community. My background, for those that you may not know, I served as a heavy equipment operator in a civil engineering squadron while I was in the military, 4 years. Following that, I was a police officer on the Corpus Christi, Texas Police Department as a sergeant, a patrol shift sergeant. I have an undergraduate degree in criminology and corrections, and I hold basic, intermediate, and advanced certificates from the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement Officer Standards and Education. I left my law enforcement career and went into the private sector for a short while. I worked as chief of security for Beeland Communities. That's a private corporation out of Houston that developed residential country club communities in the state. From there, I went to work for the city of Huntsville as Director of Community Development and Assistant City Manager. I moved from Huntsville to LaPorte, Texas, which is another suburb of Houston along the Houston Ship Channel, highly industrialized area, where I served as city manager until I came to Sallisaw. And like I say, I was here in Sallisaw until from the early 80s until 1987, then to Shawnee as city manager, and then back to Sallisaw as city manager until my retirement in 2004. I tried to stay away from public service for a little while, but it didn't last. And I ran for the commissioner seat in my ward, Ward 2, and was elected. Following the election last year, I was appointed mayor to serve the unexpired term until the election on the 13th. And so that's my background. I want to continue to help to work to improve our community. We've made a lot of strides over the years, and I would appreciate your continued support and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hudgens. We'll now move on to the second candidate for mayor, Mr. Robert Jamison.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome tonight. My name's Bob Jamison. It's got Robert up there, but I was named after my dad, so I just kind of hang with the Bob part. But a lot of you guys know me. Many of you may be even related to me. But I am pretty much a lifelong resident. My parents both were residents of Sallisaw, Oklahoma. They moved back when I was 3 years old, and I spent the majority of my life here until I was about 27 years old. I graduated in 1976 from Sallisaw High School. I graduated from Connors College in 1980, went over to the University of Arkansas and graduated with a degree in political science in 1987, followed up by 3 years at the University of Tulsa School of Law, where I became an attorney. At that point, I was intending to come back, but I got offered a good job and spent the next 27 years over there. I spent a lot of time traveling over eastern Oklahoma into the smaller communities, various courthouses, getting a chance to meet the people over there and see what they were doing. And I always kept thinking, every time I drove into one of those cities, you know, this is what Sallisaw could be. And I always felt a nudge to keep coming back and try to make a difference. And that's the reason that I'm here, and that's the reason I'm running for mayor. I want to try to make a difference. I want to try to bring back to Sallisaw that I remember, at least get it started. That means a community spirit. I remember a day when we all knew each other. We all talked. And when anything went on downtown, we were there. In the past few years, I'm the past president of the old Sallisaw High School Alumni Association, where we restored the rotunda down there and made a city park out of it. And we gave that, and that is a benefit to the community, and I'm very proud of that, very proud of the work I did on that, very proud of the people I worked with, because without them it wouldn't have ever happened. But that was a change. It showed something that we could do if we pulled together. And that's what I believe Sallisaw can do. I remember it. I think that what we need to do is to become a stronger community and show these people that we are proud of our community. We take care of our town. The business will follow then. Give them a reason to come here. I believe that Sallisaw is a sum of all of its people and not just a few. And it's going to take all of us to make this work. So I appreciate your vote, appreciate your consideration, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson. We'll now move to the third candidate for mayor, Mr. Ernie Martins.
Good evening. First, I'd like to say thank you to KXMX and the SeqCoTimes for hosting this very important event. And thank you to the folks here at People Inc. for allowing us to use this wonderful facility. For those of you who don't know me, I grew up on a farm in southwestern Oklahoma. I graduated from Walters High School in 1974. I was very involved with 4-H, FFA, and football. I attended my first year of college at Murray State College in Tishomingo. After Judy and I married, we moved back to Walters. I worked at the co-op grain elevator at Walters and went to school at Cameron University for 2 years. We then moved to Stillwater, and I received my bachelor's in Ag Ed from OSU in 1979. I spent the next 15 years as a high school ag teacher. I worked in alternative ed then for a short time, and then went into administration after receiving my master's degree from OSU in 1995. We lived in the Jinx Skytook area for many years and moved here to Sallisaw from Skytook in 2003. We've lived here for almost 15 years, and I have served as your high school principal during that time. My whole family lives and works and serves in this community. My daughter Holly has been here for 12 years, and my son Tucker for 9. Judy has been your Chamber of Commerce director for almost 14 years. And I might add, Judy and I both are retiring this summer, and we're really looking forward to that. I decided to enter the mayor's race for several reasons. Our whole family believes in living our lives with a servant's heart. We are totally invested in this community and have proven that we will work very hard to try and make Sallisaw a better place to live. I've served this community in many different capacities. I have volunteered with Diamond Days, the 4th of July celebration, Bass Nanza. I've been the announcer and MC at the Sequoia County Spring Stock Show for several years. I've cooked a lot of hot dogs for Halloween on Elm Street. I've been a Little League coach. I've been Santa's representative for many more years than I can count at both the lighting and the Christmas parade. I've coached many of our FFA public speakers and regularly judged speaking events at FFA district contests. I'm very active in church activities, and I'm very proud to have received the Community Spirit Awards here in Sallisaw and in Skytook. I cannot count how many times that I have cooked barbecue for school, church, and community events, and some of you have eaten that barbecue. And as many of you know, I spent countless evenings and weekends supporting my high school students in their activities. The Lead to Feed organization recently conducted a nationwide survey, and when the survey respondents were asked about community service, 90% of Americans feel that leaders should be involved in their local community as a servant. I have proven that I'm a dedicated servant to this community, and if I'm elected as your mayor,
I will continue to serve and volunteer with an unselfish heart.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martins. We will now move on to the question part and begin question number 1. I'm going to read the question, then we'll start with Ward 2, and we'll start again with Ms. Poindexter. The first question is, the lack of growth has been an ongoing concern over the years. What do you believe is holding Sallisaw back from experiencing more growth? And also, what can we do to position ourselves to attract new industry and business more effectively? And we'll start again with Ms. Poindexter.
I agree with you, Marley, that if I can say that that's the one thing that I hear over and over and over again, it's that. Why don't we grow? Why don't we have this restaurant or that restaurant? I believe that when the recession hit, that Sallisaw was hit very hard, and that we are just now beginning to come out of that. The incentives that we have may not be what everybody else can offer. Competition for growth and for industry is very high, very competitive, and we have to offer incentives to remain competitive. So I don't only look at incentives as offering land, utilities, but we also need to look at our proximity to I-40, our closeness to the railway and the waterways. I think if I was in industry looking at Sallisaw, that I would certainly look at those 3 things as an incentive. So I would want to be a part of any growth that goes on here, because when I moved here in 2007, I felt we were right on the verge of just booming wide open. So I do think the recession was a factor in all that, and we just have to show different industry that we can be competitive, and we need to market our area.
Thank you. We'll now move on to Mr. Gay.
We need a lot of businesses in. One thing that we could do, I think, is try to get the racetrack back open. That cost us a lot of jobs when they shut the racetrack down. And there's no excuse for Sallisaw not to be able to grow. You've got Stillwell is growing in leaps and bounds, and Polo's growing in leaps and bounds, and all they've got is 59 highway. We've got Interstate 40, we've got the railways, and we're going to have to figure out what the problem is. Because, and I've heard, rumor has it that I've heard some businesses won't come in here, and they say it's just so hard to get in here. So I don't know what the deal is. I would like to do some studying and find out.
Okay, thank you very much. We will now move on to the candidates for Ward 4, and we'll begin with Mr. Shanavan.
The growth, of course, is what we get asked about a lot on the city council. So there's a multitude of factors that companies look at when they choose a location. And of course, typically these things come through the state. They contact the state or the chamber or the local, which is more rare that they do that. With Google and all the resources out there today, companies have done their homework before they ever look at you. So things we have available to us, of course, the location everybody always talks about. Where we really have to do some work is our education of our labor force. When you look at us compared to the regional and national levels, we've got work to do there. The investments that the community has made in Carl Albert Community College to further our higher education levels in this community is critical to that. And so, again, companies want a workforce that can be trained, and they want to see that education is available there. Otherwise, if you can't do the work, they can't be successful here, because every company depends upon their employees to make them successful. So we've got a lot of work to do in that area. As far as what we can do locally, we've done incentives in the past. When I was on board, we offered an incentive for a retailer to come in, which was Hibbett Sports. That was the first time the city had ever done an incentive like that with a retailer. I think it's been successful. Of course, they're still here. and the incentive has gone away now. So we've offered other incentives such as land in the industrial park. We've offered incentives per job as far as just cash payment for companies. And of course, one of the key elements that people don't look at is retaining the industry that you do have. For example, we were real close to losing Board Warner plant. It was almost gone. They were down to 90 employees or less. And they were sold to a Chinese company as the primary investor now. They're now over 300 employees. They're interested in working in North America and trying to develop an auto industry here for their company. So we have to take care of the local business. We have to go out and recruit better.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the second candidate for Ward 4, Mr. Jonathan Richardson.
Thank you. I think I'd like to start off by answering it by there's a few challenges. And one is the city population being less than 10,000. That is a limiting factor right now. The loss of the racetrack dramatically impacted the city. And you look at losing that resource and what has replaced it. But I think there's things that we can do. We need to invest in strategic companies that can come in here. And what I mean by strategic is companies that have a product or service that is not currently offered. And that's where I think we need to spend our money and invest in those. I don't want to invest in companies that come in and compete with businesses where we already have that product or service. I believe that that's an unfair advantage to our businesses that are here, and it puts the new company on the even playing field. I would also like to look at getting some pre-approved business plans so that if a company was wanting to come here, they would have a site, they would have a building that was already approved, and the process to move in would be quick. We've talked about the strategic position. Sallisaw is in a great strategic position. It's central to the country, it has the interstate, it has railroad, it has water, the UPS location is here. There's a lot of strategic advantages to coming to Sallisaw. I would like to work with the Chamber of Commerce because I think the Chamber of Commerce is a great strategic resource to help bring in businesses. And one of the areas, or two of the areas I'd like to focus on would be entertainment. There's very limited choices for our youth and our young adults to go and have a safe place to be. And the other one I would like to look at is manufacturing. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and read the question again before we get to the three candidates for mayor. Lack of growth has been an ongoing concern over the years. What do you believe is holding Sallisaw back from experiencing more growth? Also, what can we do to position ourselves to attract new industry and business more effectively? And we'll begin with candidate Mr. Hudgens.
The recession hurt our growth. There's no doubt about that. And it bottomed out in 2008, and we're just now starting to see economics improve. The demographics, Shannon's correct, the demographics of our community hurt us when a business comes to look at us. They look at, for example, we have 50% of the median family income in Sallisaw is less than $28,000 a year. So we have 50% of our households that have incomes less than $28,000 a year. So if you're talking about a retail space or a or a restaurant or wherever something, those folks look at the demographics. They look at disposable income as looking at where they can place a business. So attracting new business, we have some things to contend with. Part of it is macro that we don't have a lot of control over. But one of the things that we can control that helps drive that would be to improve the business environment in our community. And I say that in this respect. When you look at all of the jobs that are created, new jobs, the vast majority of them come from small existing businesses. So one of the things we need to do is provide an environment, and we do that by keeping, for example, keeping utility costs down to make our businesses more effective. We need to try to work with our local businesses, whether it's the radio station or the bank or the manufacturing facility, which we've done to help with their utilities to keep them here. Look at the ways that we can improve to make our local existing businesses more prosperous and effective.
Thank you. Now move on to candidate Bob Jameson.
One of the things that I learned when I talked about traveling across the eastern part of this state and checking out and watching some and doing studies in like even Oklahoma City, what it boils down to, a lot of companies are looking for quality of life. If they're going to move into a community, what does that community have to offer them? What does it have to offer the workers or the people that they bring in? And at one time, Sallisaw was about half the size it is right now, and we had movie theaters, bowling alleys, restaurants, car dealerships, everything that a small town could want. And somehow it just got flittered away. I've been in Pryor, Oklahoma, and if you've ever wanted to go to Pryor, you know you need a road map or a GPS. But they came up with Rocklahoma, which is one of the largest rock concerts in the nation. And they now have Google building a plant there. And believe me, again, it's like Podo or like Stillwell. You got to want to go there. Sallisaw is not one of those places. We're right here. But what do we have to offer a business to come in here? We don't have a movie theater. We don't have anything to do for our children to do. We don't have half the stuff for adults to do. We have to come together as a community and become proud of our community and fix up downtown. Spruce it up, flowers, whatever it takes, and we got to do it as a community to do it. And when we do that, the businesses are going to take notice. They're going to want to be a part of this town because we're proud of it. And we have to start being proud of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson. We'll now move on to the third candidate for mayor, Mr. Ernie Martins.
Well, I want to repeat a little bit about some of the few things some of the other candidates have said, and I want to repeat some of them. There are three things that are holding us back just a little bit. Number one is the availability of affordable land. That is a problem. Sallisaw SIC is working really hard to get land available for further growth. We also, I agree, need to work on the education level of our citizens. And we also need to remember that population level that was mentioned earlier. We have got to be at a 10,000 population before a lot of these businesses and retailers will even take a look at us. But going back to land, Mr. Jameson mentioned Pryor, Oklahoma. Pryor, Oklahoma, the reason they boomed up there is because somebody had enough vision to provide some affordable land and to build an industrial park where those folks could come in and there was incentives from the city to do that. But I think we also need to look at the positives we have in our community. Let's look at some of the great things that are happening here, and we need to showcase those. The 32 different restaurant choices, the 15 major employers that we already have, the vibrant sports complex, the useful and busy airport, the city-owned electric and diamond net, a brand new animal shelter, a great radio and television station, a wonderful countywide newspaper, a Carl Albert State College campus, an Indian Capital Tech Center campus, a great hospital and other healthcare facilities that we have, and Redbird Smith Health Care in our backyard. Outstanding hunting and fishing opportunities. We live in a sportsman's paradise. 2 rail systems, the Arkansas River Navigation Channel, high quality housing is being built by many of our builders, and affordable starter homes that are being built by many of our builders for folks here in town. The courthouse is an economic engine all by itself. And the many quality of life activities that are already being sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce, the Lions Club, the Main Street Association, and many of our churches are just too numerous to mention. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martins. That concludes the first question. We appreciate everyone participating in that. Mr. Mayo and Mr. Gerdner have informed me that they need to pay the bills, so we're going to take a quick 3-minute commercial break, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Thank y'all.
Need a loan? Looking to finance a car, truck, or ATV? Anchor Finance in Salisaw can help. With over 30 years of service, Anchor Finance has a loan to fit your specific needs. At Anchor Finance, our loan officers are both professional and confidential. Visit them at 200 North Elm in Salisaw. Give them a call at 918-775-5577. Bliss Auto Repair is an authorized Napa Auto Care Center. They have nationwide 2-year or 12,000-mile warranty on all parts and labor. We are ASE certified mechanics with over 20 years of experience on all makes and models. Bliss Auto Repair. Honest, affordable mechanical repair. Located at 821 West Cherokee in Salisaw. Call 918-208-0920. One Call does it all. DNR Backhoe and Dozer Service is a state-certified septic system and aerobic system installer. We can dig your water, sewer, and gas trenches, install storm shelters, and can even perform a perk test. When it comes to dirt work, we do it all, from pads and ponds, trees and land cleared, roads, and dump truck work. We can haul sand, gravel, and shell. Call Danny Kokojohn at 918-774-0884. DNR Backhoe and Dozer Service. One Call does it all.
At Forever Memories Funeral Services, our focus is bringing family and friends together at a time of loss. We provide ceremonies that are uniquely designed to celebrate the life journey of your loved one. We offer a spacious chapel, private viewing rooms, and many in-house options to honor your loved one. Contact us at 918-775-2222 or go to our website, fmfsinc.com.
This is more than a bundle. It's more than a combo deal. It's not just stuff. This is your home, your car, and you want to give them the protection they deserve with home and auto insurance. State Farm agents get it. It's why they're here.
Talk to State Farm agent Shannon Van in Salisaw today.
It's time to relax and do the things that you want to do and let Casey Marlatt CPA take care of all your tax preparation and bookkeeping needs. Call Marlatt Enterprises PLLC at 918-775-2983 for more information. Or you can stop by his office at 2329 East Cherokee, Suite 10 in Salisaw. That's Casey Marlatt CPA for all your tax preparation and bookkeeping needs.
Welcome back, everyone. We will now begin with the second question for the forum, and this time we're going to start with Ward 4, and I will read the question. It's a little lengthy. One of the main topics brought up from my discussions with people in the community and current city employees dealt with the recent salary study that compared Salisaw to its peers. The study showed that overall, city employees were slightly below the average, the pay averages, with larger gaps being seen for the police and electric departments. Obviously, city employees point to this study to show that the need for pay increases, while many regular citizens have concerns about how fast our payroll costs have escalated over the years. Based on the city budgets pulled from the website from 2002 to 17, salary and benefit costs have doubled, going from $3.9 million to $7.8 over those 15 years. How would you recommend that we make headway on correcting the city's pay gap compared to our peers while not causing an economic hardship for the citizens by continuing to raise utility rates to pay for these additional expenses? And we'll begin this time with Ward 4, and we'll begin with Jonathan Richardson.
This is a very interesting question. I think it's an important question. And I was fortunate enough to be able to attend that meeting when the presentation occurred on the salaries. The non-uniformed were 1.5% less in salary, but they were actually 3.5% higher in benefits. So there is some advantages to the non-uniformed employees. What I was most concerned, I think, about is the police force and the gaps and the disparity in their pay. Of course, the police auxiliary has a collective bargaining agreement, and so that's negotiated. And I think it's important that the negotiation that occurs takes into all factors, including the benefits, but I do think we need to help close that gap. One of the other articles I found interesting in the collective bargaining agreement said if there's a merit increase to the city employees, it also gets passed on to the police force. So if there is a merit increase this year to the city employees, that would also affect the police force. So I'm hoping we can do something to close the gap on our police force. When you look at a cost in managing a business, there's always two factors. There's revenue, and then there's internal costs, and you use those to balance it as far as making your margin and how you can remain afloat. So I think we need to look at ways to increase revenue outside of taxes or raising utilities. We spend quite a bit of money to create the sports complex, and I'm not sure that we're getting a return on that investment that we need to be. We need to bring in tournaments, which is going to boost taxes for our hotels, our restaurants, and our gas station and other services that people attending those sporting events. So I think we need to find ways to increase business, bring other business in, but I think it's important that we pay our employees a fair salary. Thank you.
We'll go next now with candidate Shannon Van. I also wanted to mention, I noticed in the last go-around of questions, we kind of cut a few people short. We had marked the questions at 2 minutes, so we actually added 30 seconds, so we're going to do 2.5 minutes now on these last couple of questions. Mr. Van.
Okay. First thing you need to understand is the sources of revenue for the city. And basically the city has two options when it comes to revenue. Increased sales tax, which doesn't necessarily mean increased sales tax rate as far as percentage that you pay, but as the retail sales go up with hopefully the economy improving, then the city brings in more income. So the economic recovery, hopefully that we benefit from that, and we see some revenue increases from just what the gross sales tax income is to the city. The other, of course, is the rates. Rates can be a challenge at times. We don't control our wholesale cost of power from GRDA. That's something that they have to make adjustments on their end, and unfortunately those adjustments have to be passed along to the customer. Of course, we try to be conservative with the spending that we make and be conservative with their own electric use. You try to conserve at your house, the city has to conserve. For example, we replaced the street lighting with LED lights during my tenure as mayor through a grant. So the city only paid a portion of the cost of redoing this, but that cut the city's use of electric. So that's one way we try to control that. The electric department and the police department are competitive issues that need to be addressed immediately. We're not able to keep electric department employees, the linemen, the journeyman linemen that are going out and making repairs at night. That's a critical need, and we're in a highly competitive environment for those top skills. And so we've fallen way out of line with what the marketplace demands there, and we have to address that immediately. The electric department, of course, is a big provider of revenue to the city. The police department, I believe, was almost just short of 8% that they were below market. So obviously that needs to be addressed, and I think we can work that in over time. But the majority of it needs to be made up now before we fall further behind as time passes. Benefits, particularly hard issue to control. We face the same issue that the rest of America faces, which is increased health care costs. When I say health care costs, I'm talking about health insurance. Again, we use a provider. We don't have a lot of control now. We've done things like make deductible adjustments, co-insurance adjustments, and adjustments to retiree benefits in that area. The last thing during my tenure, we had to address the low end of the pay scale. When I say low end, I'm talking about the entry-level positions. We had some that were basically qualified for food stamps several years back. That was unacceptable. You know, we're not attracting the best employees when we do that. And we want to attract employees that hopefully can work their way up through the system and stay long-term employees of the city.
Thank you. We will now move on to the candidates for mayor, and this time we will start with Mr. Bob Jamison.
You know, you hear a lot about about being Sallisaw not paying as much as other cities. You have to also look at the side of the city we are. But again, it all comes down to economics. I mean, you want to pay people the right wages, but you also have a lot of retired people out here who just cannot afford rate increases. They can't afford additional taxes. So what you want to do is you have to bring in your income. And I look around at other communities. Tourism is one of the top money bringers of any industry out there. And there's no reason in the world Sallisaw can't have a good tourism industry. I look at Fayetteville and Fort Smith, they have the Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue. Yeah, it starts out a little bit slow, but boy, they sure build up and they bring in millions of dollars on the weekend, and that sure would help alleviate a lot of costs around here. Certainly would take a lot of load off of the retired folks too. So I work just like everybody else, and I pay, for health care costs when I have to. I'm lucky enough to be a member of the tribe, but other people aren't. And I just, when you look out at, you say 8% on police, you'd like to do better, but there's a difference. There's a want and a need, and you can want to, but if you can't afford it, there's no need to. And I'm not saying that these workers don't need a raise, because they do. But we've got to get the income in here in order to do it. We just can't draw it out of thin air or keep putting it on the backs of the people who can't afford it.
Thank you. Now move on to candidate for mayor, Mr. Ernie Martins.
Well, if you quote statistics of going from $3.9 million to $7.8 million, I'd like to also know how many people did we add on that payroll in that time, and how many more services that we've added in the city during that time. We talk about cost, but you have to have cost to operate. You have to invest money to operate. Everybody in this room and everybody in this town wants police protection. They want to feel safe. They want to be able to have a healthy fire department that puts their fires out. That helps their insurance rates. But they also want to have the lights turned on. We had a situation just a few days ago here at Richland Estates where the lights went out, electricity went off. I know for a fact that we had 2 guys up on the pole working on that, because that was the only 2 that they had qualified to work on the problem at that time. 3 guys standing on the ground helping because they weren't qualified or certified to climb that pole just yet. I also know for a fact that those guys, a lot of those guys at the city electric department are making $11 an hour. Cooks and Hills is paying them $26 an hour. Now, I'm not saying we ever could compete with that, but we're going to have to do something to attract and keep our quality officers, our quality linemen, our quality yard workers. And I can tell you, this city is already making great responsible decisions about spending, about the kind of spending we do. That's going to be the key, is not so much raising taxes, but wiser spending. Spending money where we need to spend it, making good decisions about how that money's spent. The landfill right now is a profit-making business. They're already doing things. I don't know how many of you people know this, but they're already doing things in this area, in this surrounding area, to bring income into that landfill by taking the waste of other communities, even as far away as Fort Smith and farther. So there's things that are already being done by the city leaders and the city administration, so to speak, to cut some of the waste out and do things more efficiently. And I think we'll continue to need to do that. I mean, but those are the kinds of things that attract new businesses. If you've got good police, good fire, good health care, good city workers, and you keep the lights on, then that's going to go way, way far to help attract new businesses and that quality of life to this community. I agree with Mr. Richardson. The ballpark should be an economic asset to this community. We need to do more out there to draw more tournaments, draw more people into this town where those people are spending money in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martins. And we'll move on to the final candidate for mayor, Mr. Jim Hudgens.
We did just complete the salary study. The city council will be taking that up at our meeting in February. The increase in the salaries, that there are overall some disparities, but the largest two disparities was in our police department and the electric department. But as Shannon said earlier, you need to understand the sources of revenue for the city. The two major sources we have are our sales tax revenue and our utility revenue. And we have already asked, and the employees and staff have worked diligently to try to do more with less. We have kind of been in a cutback mode on our management where we're trying to do things for ourselves. For example, we have in-house, we're doing a lot of the work to complete the sale at the landfill. We have gone out and hustled additional business for the landfill with Yappy in Fort Smith, and also a new contract with LaFleur County. But there's more that we can do. We can still try to generate additional revenue out there. The utility revenue, there's just not much room to raise our rates anymore. Like I said, we have 50% of our households that have a difficult time, and with the cold weather that we've had this winter so far, the utility bills that have just gone out are higher than normal, and I'm sure that those folks will feel the pinch for those bills. But we do have to address the inequities in our payroll, and I anticipate that the city council will do that, particularly in our utility department, our electric department. But the real crux of this is to be able to try to increase our revenue without raising rates. Hopefully our increased or improved economic situation will increase our sales tax revenue, not by increasing the rate of that, but to increase the amount of taxable sales that we have. And then the other side of that is for the city employees to continue to understand that their well-being and the city's ability to provide a fair wage and benefit depends on their ability to do more with less, to be more productive in their work.
Thank you. We'll move on now to the candidates for Ward 2, and I'll kind of repeat the last part of the question. How would you recommend we make headway on correcting the city's pay gap compared to our peers while not causing an economic hardship for citizens by continuing to raise utility rates to pay for the additional expense? And this time we will start with Mr. Philip Gay.
That's kind of a catch-22 question. You don't want to raise the taxes because it keeps businesses from wanting to come in. And we'd all like to see everybody get a raise. But maybe they need to start thinking about, like Mr. Jameson said, try to get big concerts going here. Maybe the city put them on. Something to generate money. The more people you get in here, coming into these things, the more people that see Sallisaw, and it generates people, gets them interested in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll ask Ms. Roe Poindexter, candidate for Ward 2.
Well, like Jim said, we did just receive the study back, and I'm very impressed with our consultant and the presentation that he gave us and the information that he gave us. We anticipated being on the low end for entry-level salaries, and so we are working very hard with trying to implement what the consultant has recommended. Like, I agree with Jim, like he said, the council has been working on this, has been working with Keith Skelton and his accounting people, and we are trying very hard to come up with a plan to where we will be able to implement this. I believe we have to stay competitive, especially in our electrical department, because we are losing employees, and we currently do not have employees that can do the job. Just like the outage that we currently had, there were only 2 qualified linemen and electricians to take care of that problem. And we are losing people because of salary in that area. So I believe 100% in our city employees. They're very dedicated, they work very hard, and I just hope that we'll be able to implement the study, the results from what we had from the study.
Thank you. All right, we'll now take our last commercial break and come back and try to answer another question or two. Thank you very much.
In an emergency, you need a name that you can trust. Pafford EMS has been proudly serving Sequoyah County since 2006 and has stations located in Muldrow, Sallisaw, and Vian. For a membership, you can call us at 918-774-9184. Pafford EMS, a private service in the public interest.
Peters Agency offers Advantage Care Management, home health, and primary care attendant services. Our services to the community are state and nationally certified. We provide medical case management, behavioral health, and Medicare services for the frail, elderly, and disabled in 74 counties in Oklahoma. We plan, obtain, and monitor appropriate services necessary to keep our members safe and independent in their own home. Call Peters Agency today at 775-6555. Care with prayer changes things.
Sallisaw Lumber now offers a complete line of Guardian fiberglass insulation to lower your home or business's electric bill. Whether you want it blown in or batted, Sallisaw Lumber will professionally install Guardian fiberglass insulation for you. Remember, good results begin with a solid foundation, and that requires the right materials for the job. That's why the pros and do-it-yourselfers trust Sallisaw Lumber for selection and service.
Is this my car?
State Farm knows that for every one of those moments,
This is ridiculous!
there's one of these.
Is this my car? What? This is ridiculous.
This can't be happening!
This can't be happening.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart.
Oh, it's happening, sweetheart. Shut up.
Shut up!
That's why State Farm is there, with car insurance for when things go wrong, but also here with car loans to help life go right. State Farm.
Talk to State Farm agent Shannon Van in Sallisaw today.
Bliss Auto Repair is an authorized Napa Auto Care Center. They have nationwide 2-year or 12,000-mile warranty on all parts and labor. We are ASE certified mechanics with over 20 years of experience on all makes and models. Bliss Auto Repair. Honest, affordable mechanical repair. Located at 821 West Cherokee in Sallisaw. Call 918-208-0920.
We are back. Should be underway momentarily. Very excited.
All right, thank you all very much. We're now going to get down to the last couple of questions, and we're going to actually go from 2 minutes to 3 minutes on this last question. We're going to kind of combine a couple of questions. We will start with the candidates for mayor, and the questions: what do you feel is the single largest threat to the city of Sallisaw, and how would you address it? And where would you like to see the city over the next 5 to 10 years? And we'll start this time with candidate Ernie Martins.
One of the things that's very near and dear to me, as all of you know, is education. And this is an off-the-wall question and out of left field, because there's lots of answers to the question. But I think one of the most pressing issues that we have right now is creating an educated workforce and also keeping our young people in this community. I spend a lot of time preparing kids to jump out of high school and jump into their chosen field, their chosen area of education, whatever they're going to do. And we have a lot of students that leave our school and become very, very successful wherever they go. You know, Mr. Van was talking about his 3 children a while ago, and there's some people sitting in this room right now that are successful graduates of Salsa High School. But I think it's very, very important that we prepare these students for the future that is ahead of them. We prepare these kids where that they can make wise decisions, where they can be the ones that can come back to this community and better this community and move this community forward. I've been here long enough now, I've been here 15 years, that I'm beginning to see my graduates, my former students, who are raising children of their own in this community. They're choosing to live here. We cannot lose that. We have to continue to nurture that, we have to continue to promote that, and we have to continue to have a community and build a community and create an environment here where our kids, our students, your kids and grandkids want to someday come back here and work. My whole family has made a choice to live here. We could live just about anywhere we want to stay, but we've made a choice to live here because we feel like this is a great place to live, and we want our kids and grandkids to live here from now on. But I think we have really got to work on education. We've got to work on promoting what we have in this community so that we can keep those kids back and keep them here in our community, where they're going to get back to this community and be very, very productive citizens and raise their kids and become productive taxpayers and the leaders in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to candidate Mr. Jim Hudgens.
I guess one of the most significant problems that we're facing right now is our finances. The city of Sallisaw has made choices over the last few years that have put us in a position, along with declining the economy, the regression in the economy. But we have 2 major sources of revenue for the city. That's our sales tax revenue and our utility revenue. We have 4 cents worth of sales tax revenue that goes to the city. 1 cent is committed to the general fund. A ½ cent has been committed to help support our hospital since somewhere around 1978. And that leaves 2.5 cents of sales tax revenue for other purposes. We have committed that 2.5 cents of sales tax revenue to debt service on our outstanding debt. Right now, the city owes in our long-term debt somewhere around $33.5 million. We have a $4.5 million unfunded liability in our pension system. That's on our non-uniformed employees. We have a $1 million unfunded liability on our fire pension system. Right now, the 2.5 cents of sales tax revenue is not enough to pay the debt service on the bonds. So we have to take money from our utility revenue to add to the sales tax revenue just to make the payment on our bonds. So that what's left of the utility revenue then must go for everything else. And it doesn't reach as far as we would like it to. So that's part of the cutback management we're talking about. We've asked the employees, and they've been real good about it, to try to do more with less, to increase our productivity. We have projects that are on the board now that we're having to try to figure out how we're going to fund. We have funded the sale at the landfill this year. That project's underway, and we have money set aside to do that. But running out of time. But we have our north substation that needs money. Needs to be. It was built in the 80s. We've deferred maintenance on it. We have problems with our wastewater treatment plant. We don't have the money set aside to do that. We had to borrow an additional $800,000 to do the Highway 59 electric and telecommunications relocation, which is going to add another $80,000 a year to our debt service. And we still have not addressed our long-term water supply. So we have some significant issues that are not unsurmountable. I think that we can do that. It's just going to take all of us working together to manage it. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last candidate for mayor, Mr. Bob Jameson.
What I fear most about our town is complacency. Over the last several years, even before I left here back in 1987, I would hear people say, well, I like Sallisaw the way it is, I don't want to see it grow. Well, here's what happens when it doesn't grow. Is you become stagnant, we lose business, we can't draw business. And it's because we got complacent. We got to figure out, we got to shake that complacency and start thinking of new ideas. Not just, not just the say, well, we got a great location and we're going to be able to draw business because we haven't been doing it. We're going to have to do something else. And that means create reasons for people to come here. And that means we can have festivals. I think the Main Street Festival, the two that they have every year, I was kind of disappointed when I moved back at the first couple, but they seem to be getting better. Last year's in October, I was really pleased with it. That is a reason for people to come here. I want to be able to see people come here more, and that means we may need to advertise a little bit, advertise these festivals, advertise the rodeo a little better than what it does. When I was a kid, we had rodeo week, and everybody dressed rodeo. I mean, they had scruffy beard contests. People enjoyed that, and people would come from different communities to be a part of that. We've got to bring in new dollars, folks, because our dollars just aren't covering it. And they won't cover it unless we get some new stimulus. Now, where would I like to see Sallisaw in 5 years? I'd like to see us on at least on the same stage as Poto and growing. I'd like to see us on the same stage as Pryor, Wagner, and Tahlequah. And we're going to have to get it, and the only way we're going to get it is to stop being complacent and to say that, oh, the status quo is okay, because it's not. It's not been serving our community. This town deserves better. I've seen it. I love this city. That's the way I came. That's the reason I came home, is to try to make a difference, try to shake things up a little bit. And I'd love to see this town become a hot spot. I really would. I'm almost ashamed to say that Roland, Oklahoma's got a Wendy's and we don't. And back when I was a kid, Roland wasn't anything. So we've got to stop being complacent, folks. We've got to put our big britches on, get out and start creating new ways of bringing people into this community.
Thank you. As chairman of the Sallisaw Lions Club Rodeo, and it happens to be the 75th anniversary this year, I'm going to hold you to being in charge of the Scruffy Beard contest. We'll now move on to the candidates for Ward 2, and we'll start with Ms. Ro Poindexter. And I'll repeat the questions again. What do you feel is the single largest threat to the city of Sallisaw, and how will you address it? And where would you like to see the city in the next 5 to 10 years?
Okay, I need to agree with my friend Ernie over here that is an off-the-wall question. I don't know, Jeff, Darren, could blame for that, but no, in trying to prepare for this, you try to think, okay, what are they going to ask? What are people going to want to know? And that was not one of them. So I believe our biggest threat would, and I don't know if I'd call it a threat, but one of our biggest issues, I believe, is our workforce. We need to focus on the education of the people here and marketing our city better for those that may want to come in and work here. Sallisaw is a great place to work. But we've got to stay competitive in the area of salaries. So again, you know, we are looking at that so that we can step up there and compete with other cities for some of the positions that we do have. So 5 years from now, I would certainly hope to see some growth and quality of life, more quality of life opportunities for people and for our citizens. I believe our citizens are very prideful, and because I knew that when I first moved here, that they take pride in where they live, they take care of where they live, and they promote where they live. So I would hope to see some growth and again, quality of life for our citizens that I care so much about. And I would hope to see more small businesses and tourist opportunities, industry, improved parks and pool. Those are all quality of life things I'd like to see. Miniature golf. But with all those type of things, again comes the citizens have to get involved in a positive way in trying to get some of these things done. Like Ernie said earlier, we need to focus on the positive, on what we do have here to offer, and not everybody focus on what we've done and the negative things that are going on.
Thank you. And we'll now go to the second candidate for District 2, Mr. Philip Gay.
I guess my biggest fear is the town dying. You go through town now, you've got empty buildings all over through town. When I was a kid growing up, there was no empty buildings. And we need to get businesses back in here. We've got the buildings. Another thing I would like to see, I'd either like to see an underpass or overpass going to the hospital. We've got, when you get both trains on the track at the same time, sometimes they've got the track shut down for 10 minutes. They closed 3 river crossings, and I can't believe they didn't negotiate an underpass or overpass then. And I just think we need to do what we can to get businesses in here, and I'd like to see this town just boom. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to the candidates for Ward 4, and we'll start with Mr. Shannon Van. I'll repeat the question while he's walking up. What do you feel is the single largest threat to the city of Sallisaw, and how will you address it, and where would you like to see the city in 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think there's been some good answers. Complacency was, I think, a good answer, because we can't risk not being willing to change and look outside the box. But I guess naturally, because of the business I'm in, I think one of the largest threats we face is a natural disaster. Of course, the common one we think of in Oklahoma is, of course, tornado. And you say, well, how would that affect you? You insure your assets, but when you have that type of impact, if you were to have Walmart wiped out and you have some of the other retail sectors wiped out, you lose sales tax revenue for a substantial period of time. That's not insurable. So you have to have an adequate reserve fund, which we did establish a reserve fund several years back and designated that. We had some funds back in reserve. They were labeled under different accounts and weren't really called a reserve fund. We solved that during my term. And we need to continue to fund that and adequately fund that to be a proper percentage of the general fund. When we talk about where do we want to be 10 years from now, we talk a lot about infrastructure projects. There's a laundry list of projects from electric substation to wastewater treatment plant. We've got the third leg of the water supply issue that was started back in 2002 when the study was first completed, which was trying to build a new impoundment or getting 10 kilo water. We've got interstate exchanges that are only 8-year Oklahoma Department of Transportation plan. Those, who knows where those are as far as being delayed in the current state budget situation and federal funding issues, but hopefully those are completed and those new interchanges will be in place 10 years from now. We need to look at land for business and industrial development outside of our industrial park. There's not much usable, developable land out there. And so we'll continue to develop and that as far as we can, but we need to find other locations. When we talk about the amount of debt the city has, I'd like to remind you that over 80% of that was voted on and approved by you, the citizens. It wasn't something that the city council did or a city manager did. It was plans that were presented to you so we could have water for the next 50 years, so we could have a diamond net system that could provide adequate internet speeds in a community that wasn't going to have adequate internet speeds when the world was needing the internet. So we look at that. We look at a sports complex. We talked about quality of life issues. Okay, sports complex, that's not just the ball fields that you see today. There's actually a master plan that was developed during my time frame that included other things like soccer fields, football fields, walking trails, splash pads, or a water park or something along that line. There's room out there for all that. So again, we have to look out to the future. As a council, we have to juggle these priorities. But my biggest point is this: if you don't invest in yourself, how in the world can you expect outsiders to invest in you? You can't do it. So that's my challenge to the community. I think we've done that in the past and we'll continue to do it in the future.
All right, thank you very much. Now move on to Mr. Jonathan Richardson, the second candidate for Ward 4.
Thank you. I believe the single biggest threat is fear. Because fear creates flight, fright, or freeze. And hope is the only thing strong enough to overcome that. That's why I'm running on a campaign of hope. Because we have challenges. We have an interim city manager. We have a high amount of drug use. There's a lack of employment. My high school friend of mine was homeless and needed a place to live, and I invited him to come out and stay with me. And he had trouble finding employment here. Some of them would just pay his bills and have a way that he could meet his needs. And it's a challenge here. There's lack of entertainment. I think we've talked about that. Lack of home ownership. Most of the city's residents do not live in homes that they own. Our hospital has challenges. The Affordable Care Act greatly reduced reimbursement rates, and that is affecting our hospital, which is a vital strategic asset that we need to keep. The city improvement projects, I think everybody's talked about those. There's things we need to do in this town. But we can't let fear overcome us and create that flight, fright, or freeze. We need hope. And that's why I'm running for this office. I would encourage you to look at my Facebook page or my Vote JR website. That's why I'm here today. And so in 5 years, I'd like to see some entertainment for our youth. There's just not a place for them to hang out. Whether it's miniature golf, a theater, bowling alley, skating rink, we got to have some place where they can go and spend time together and build that community relationship. We need to increase the jobs, and I'm hoping we can do that in 5 years. I'd like a consistent city manager. So in 5 years, I'd like to see the same city manager that we hire still be in place, because consistency in that role is important, and I think we saw that with Mr. Hudgens in that role. I'd like to see an increase in tourism. We talked about it, there's sporting, game, there's fishing, there's lots of things that we can do to bring in that tourism aspect. In Texas, people are paying thousands of dollars to go hunting and come in and do that. We can do some of those same things here. And lastly, complete these infrastructure projects. Again, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're now going to proceed with just closing statements, and we're going to go in order of Ward 2, Ward 4, and Mayor. And so we will begin with Ward 2 and start with Mr. Philip Gay. I'm sorry, and you do have 2 minutes for the closing statements.
I'm proud of the city I live in, and I appreciate your vote. I'd like to be the voice for all the people because the city belongs to all of us. Thank you.
Now, Ms. Earl Poindexter.
Again, I'd like to thank everybody that came out tonight. I also would like to give special thanks to KXMX and SeqCoTimes for sponsoring this forum, to People Inc. for letting us have it in their nice facility. I believe that if we all project a positive attitude and resolve to work together to make Sallisaw a better place to live, that we will be successful. I have the experience of serving on this council for 4 years, so I understand how the city operates. I am progressive, trustworthy, hardworking, dedicated, and I am always open to listening to any issues. I will continue to do my part in promoting small business, industry, tourism, and economic development and growth. More specifically, I want to see the splash pad construction through. I want to explore possibilities of improving our city pool and city parks. I want to form a committee to review and update our city charter, and I want to do what I can to keep our hospital viable, and I want to contribute to being able to strike the balance between caring for the city's infrastructure and offering quality of life opportunities for our citizens. I want to continue to seek ways for Sallisaw to grow. My decisions are always based on what is best for the city of Sallisaw and its citizens. And I believe our citizens, I do believe in our citizens, and I do not believe that we are complacent here. We have citizens, business, and community leaders that do offer opportunities for those that live here. I would be honored to be elected again, so I would appreciate your vote on February 13th.
Thank you. We'll now move on to closing statements for Ward 4, and we'll begin with Mr. Jonathan Richardson.
The Declaration of Independence, it starts with this famous sentence: "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. They are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." In society today, there's an ever-present fear that these unalienable rights are diminishing. A less well-known quote comes from the author Robert Ludlum: "Hope is the only thing stronger than fear." I look around our community and I see some fear. Drug use and limited job opportunities are a danger to our community. Sallisaw is a community where the median household income is about $30,000, about half of the national average. Personal home ownership is very low. I've heard the figure as low as 25%. However, I have hope. I believe that we can work together to affect change in our community. And hope is a spark that's contagious. We can increase the quality of life for our residents. We can eliminate illegal drug use by working with the city, state, and local officials and nonprofits like Next Step to help those in need and increase individual home ownership. We can increase jobs by bringing in more business to grow the social economy, particularly in the entertainment industry. This will boost the revenue of other businesses like restaurants, reduction in child to Fort Stith or Poto. We can be fiscally responsible with the public's money to address our water treatment plants, power sustainment, and other projects that need to be completed. We can work to balance the budget, mitigate the need to seek tax increase, raise utility rates. All these efforts require strong leadership and the support of the community. You people have a voice that needs to be heard and a vote that needs to be cast. I respectfully request the opportunity to use my leadership to serve this community.
Thank you. And now, the last candidate for Ward 4, Mr. Shannon Van.
Last week's SeqCoTimes column titled This Week in County History gave us a story from 100 years ago, Sallisaw, 1918. The city light and water plant was without fuel to start. The city marshal, with an order from the mayor, confiscated a railroad load of coal from the Kansas City Southern Railroad. The light and water plant had discontinued morning services and only supplied light and water from about 2 p.m. to 7 a.m. We've advanced a little bit from then. None of us would find having water or electric for part of a day is okay in today's world. They certainly didn't back then either, apparently. Today, the city has many infrastructure challenges. Streets, electric, sewer, water, sanitation, as well as police and fire protection must continually improve. Telecommunications demands of today's world and future generations are trends that the city must simply work to stay up with. Indeed, one of my past goals as mayor was insisting on the availability of services found in large cities to be available here in rural Oklahoma. That's one of those things that I really fought for, and I believe we're truly capable of and have provided that. But as we focused on infrastructure, we also must focus on quality of life issues. To attract retailers and restaurants, you must have households with disposable income to spend. To get those households, you must have more jobs. Working to retain and attract jobs is like baseball. You swing and miss a lot, but you keep swinging, making contact, getting base hits, and working for the home run. I understand the issues and challenges in this as I've stayed involved through the Chamber and Sallisaw Improvement Corporation, even after my time as mayor. We've had some success, but I promise you the thirst was never satisfied. I will continue to make it a priority. This is a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. All progress is precarious, and the solution of one problem brings us face to face with another problem. This quote defines city government. The work is never complete. You don't ever get through paving streets. You don't ever keep the electric running enough. You can't ever get enough clean water. Problems and challenges will continue to rise and need to be met. I'm ready to go back to work for you to meet those challenges. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the candidates for mayor, and we'll begin with Mr. Jim Hudgens.
Sallisaw is a wonderful community. I don't know where else you would find in a community of 8,000 people that offers the types of services that we offer here. We have all of the utilities, with the exception of natural gas, that's provided by the city, including a state-of-the-art telecommunication system. We own our own landfill. We have a great public transportation system through Cowboys. And those are things that small communities normally don't have. The difficulties in balancing the needs that we have, our finances, and the amount of money that we have, makes it very difficult. When I was city manager, we'd have new elected officials come on board. I would always give them an orientation about the city, and I would always tell council members that they needed to do 3 things to be successful. Number one is they need to be honest, and what I mean by that is not steal. Of course, that goes without saying, but have your heart in the right place and want to do what's best for the community and the organization. Number 2 is keep an open mind about the things that come before you, and be informed about those issues so you can make good decisions. And the last, and one of the most important, is don't grind any axes. Don't use your position to help or hurt someone. Go back to the number 1, be honest, why you're running. I will tell you that I try to be the type of mayor or council member that I wanted my council members to be when I was city manager. We have a lot of challenges. They're not unsurmountable. We can manage those things, but it's going to take effort, and it will take community support. There are some real significant challenges, but we as a community are capable of meeting those. Thank you.
Thank you. And next will be Mr. Bob Jameson.
You know, everything we've discussed here tonight is important. Infrastructure, you know, cleaning up the sewage system, but it all takes money. And right now, you've got to generate that money, and we're not doing it. And how are we going to do it? By making ourselves attractive. And that's why I keep coming back to community spirit. The community, the love of the town, to let everybody know that you care about this town the same way that I care about it, and my family cares about it. You know, just sprucing up downtown, having people walk back and forth and shopping in businesses. I believe competition is the best thing that we can have. I wouldn't shake my head at any business that wanted to come in here. But first off, we need to make ourselves attractive. And we can do that through tourism. We can do that through advertisement of the current entertainment opportunities that we have here. I would say I would work with the chamber. I would love to work with the Downtown Main Street Society and continue to work with my old high school association. Every available means that we can have provides something for the people to come downtown to do and become involved again. Because once they become involved, give them something to be happy about, and they're going to come. And when they do that, when our town does that, then the people who come in here on these tourism events, they're going to see that, and they're going to want to be a part of that too. Folks, we've got to all work together, and we've got to shake it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Now our last candidate for mayor, Mr. Ernie Martins.
Let's talk about some goals that are important to me as close tonight. Number one, I'd like to choose or be part of that selection process. We're choosing our next city manager with very, very wisely. We want to look at someone with integrity, ability, and character. I think we ought to be doing something positive with the old middle school site. And I think there's some plans in the work for that. I think we need to create a splash pad in a central location and rejuvenate our city pool. I think we need to create opportunities, continue to create opportunities for good paying and dependable jobs for our citizens. I think we need to be very careful with our use of Brushy Lake and investigate other sources of water to provide for future growth. I think we need to continue to partner with the Cherokee Nation to develop job opportunities together. And I also think that we need to continue to promote education for our students and adults as a way to jump out of the generational poverty that holds many of our families back. Important scripture to me, Colossians 3:12 and 17. 3 says, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. And 17 says, and whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. As your next mayor, you can rest assured that I will always try to treat people with kindness, dignity, and respect. And no matter how tough the situation is or how tough the decision might be, my moral compass is always going to drive every decision that I make. Thank you for your consideration for mayor.
I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. And I want to tell you all that a few years ago, I did some research into our city elections and found that more often than not, you don't have a choice in who is going to represent you because there is only one candidate that filed. We should be very happy and proud tonight that we have these 7 people in front of us taking their time to explain their positions and let us know how they feel about our city. And frankly, it brings up a lot of ideas that if only one of them was here and there was no forum and there was no election, we wouldn't know what these other ideas were. So I think we should lead and give these folks all a round of applause for being here tonight. This does conclude our event, and we want to thank Marley Abel again, as well as James Limbaugh for running the signs. And thank you very much. Have a good night.
All right. Thanks for watching, folks.